I'm finna debate Doge. So, yo, Doge, you there? Oh, this nigga on some bullshit, bro. Is your Wi-Fi back?
Did I accidentally connect to my phone?
If you did, it's perfectly fine. Nigga named
Yeah,
Whataredoge.xx.
yeah. Yeah, my internet got fucked over my computer now, so I'm on my phone.
It's fine. It's fine.
But
So, Shinobu versus Kaza, right? So, should we start off with speedless
yeah, like
factors?
it's just. I mean, yeah, you just
Well,
think speedless is
I want to
Doma.
establish something real quick, right? So, if we're not gonna be right here, right? We already know that like their blood, Doma has like higher blood, right, than Akaza. You know that.
If you want to establish that Doma scales above Akaza, yeah, it's a higher moon. I agree.
And speed as well.
Yeah, like I
Okay.
agree with the hierarchy of
So,
the moons. Like, dude, just everything. Yes, I agree.
so what would be your response if I told you that Shinobu just speed blitzes Akaza?
Yeah, I think it's Doma like fucks around too much to consistently say that like blitzing him is a feat.
So,
Probably.
yeah. So we'll get into that. Okay. So then, um, I'll send you these two scans real quick.
What
Then
chapter is it again?
I
Yeah, that's
just
good.
told I
I'm
don't
gonna
even
take
know the
a
chapters really,
while
man.
because I can
But
only go on my phone.
yeah, it's fine. So in the scan I sent you,
Mm-hmm.
we know that she focuses. I don't know if I said. Yeah, I've actually have sent it in the discussion that we had previously. But we know that I think yeah, you remember the scan. So basically, she focuses on her
Yeah.
thrust because she doesn't have many powers. That's why like it was stated that Kona has like more skill etc. But it's because like she lacks power. That's why she focuses on her thrust. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when
To
she
devote
uses
to
her
the poison,
thrust,
yeah.
yeah. So when she uses her thrust, right? It says an amazing thrust. I couldn't stop it with my hand. Now couldn't entails an impossibility. Therefore, he couldn't, even if he was like quote unquote going all out.
1 second, let me go see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't think that's the case because in feats later, like Doma
What feats
blatantly
does
just
he
like
present
tags the
later?
fuck out of her.
Because
What?
unironically, I think that she goes on to present better feats. Given the fact that we see that her lungs were like what's it called broken, and she was able to present more speed blitzes while he knew that the attack was coming. For instance, right when he was standing in front of her and he was like, "Oh, it's coming down from below." That's him saying, right? That's him acknowledging that she's gonna attack her, knowing like he's basically precogging it, and he still gets speed blitz. Hold up.
Yeah, so essentially saying I couldn't stop it with my hand. I don't
Mhm.
really think that's a statement to speed.
Wait, can we go
It
over the
seems
first
to be
thing?
more of a statement of how
Because
it just kind of pierces through his hand, right?
can we go
He
over the
wants to
first
say I
thing?
couldn't stop it with my hand.
I want to go over
Yeah.
the first thing
Or the
because when I
first
brought
thing?
up Doge, because when I brought up this point, you went over to say how he presented more feats. So, are you going to present a contention to what
Yeah.
I just said?
What? I'm talking about the scans you sent right now. I'd say it
Yeah.
seems like it's kind of just a piercing thing.
So, are you okay? So, it's going to be like, are you going to drop the other point though?
What do you mean?
You made the assertion that he goes on. This wouldn't be like valid given the fact that he goes on to present better feats, and I contended that. So, are you going to refute that? Like, I could call it indirect concession by you going over here, but I'm not going to do that on you.
Just to be clear, I have no interest in like debating this or like you didn't contend it. Judgment says I win. GG. Like I just want to like see your view and discuss it. Just to be
Oh,
perfectly
I'm back.
clear.
What you say?
So, just to be perfectly clear, I have no interest in like going like evidence. This is my rhetoric. Like judgment says I won, or you didn't contend that. GG. Like good luck next. Like I just want to discuss our views.
Yeah,
Like that's all I
did
want to do.
okay, are you like disregarding how I just told you, right? Like think about this. I'm not gonna do that on you. So the implication
Yeah,
behind that is
love
because
that.
we agreed that we weren't gonna do it for sport. So I'm not doing that on you. So I was just saying I could have if we were to do it for sport. So I understand that. So yeah, what would be your refute to the thing I said?
Entails a impossibility.
No, not
Probably
that.
not. It's
Not
very
that.
convincing that like he just fucks around and allows himself to get hit. Like
Doge, I'm
very
not talking about
convincingly.
that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so Yeah, but before we go into this, I want you to address the thing I said because, right, think about this, Doge. You said earlier, right, that, oh, well, one of the reasons regarding for why this isn't valid is because Doma just presents better feats. I gave a contention to that, and I'm still waiting, right, giving you the opportunity to refute that because I gave a refutation.
Oh, if you just want to say like his higher feats later, no, I just think like he just speed blitzes her later. Whether you want to say like, oh, she was weakened, like I just don't see that is very convincing. Like unless you want to say she's like degrading like multiple multitudes,
Okay,
almost
so
redundant to say that
let me get
multiple
this straight. Let me get
multitudes
this
down in
straight.
like a matter.
Yeah.
Hmm?
So are you saying that, oh, well, this doesn't really matter because it's not really like a convincing feat?
Yeah, you know, it's super unconvincing. The
Well, I think it
idea
is
that
convincing because if you take it a look from this perspective, right, that at this moment, from the scans that I've presented so far, that she's like making a speed blitz, and you're saying that this isn't really valid, but then I'm giving you, right, another piece of evidence, my bad, right, which basically shows that while she is suppressed because one of her lungs, right, is literally damaged, right, and she is still able to perform a speed blitz, right, then I think it is very
Mhm.
convincing, right? Because that makes your assertion invalid.
Yeah, yeah, of course, with like no context from my side, just like your assertions and just taking my assertion or my statement to just be blank. Yeah, of course, I agree with you. But that's not what it is. I'm saying it's unconvincing because of what happens in the context throughout the fight.
Okay,
So with
so
Doma's like that
to
statement and
the
you saying Shinobi is able to like speed blitz, I'm saying that's super unconvincing throughout the
yeah,
fight because of
so
what we've seen happen.
so for the speed blitz that I told you about, what's the context in that? Because you're basically implying that there's a
Mm-hmm.
context, right, that makes it so that it's not convincing. So when she performed the speed blitz, when she was
Yeah.
like surprised by her lungs, and he was able to know, right,
Mm-hmm.
he precogged the attack and still got blitzed by it. What's the context to that? Because from
Yeah,
what
the
I
context
remember,
is
because we both
Doma.
watched it, but we both watched the fight, right? It was that he just had
Yeah.
better regeneration. What happened? What's the context?
Mm, the context is essentially Doma allows himself, he just fucks around a lot and essentially allows himself to get blitzed by people. He's like perception levels faster.
So can you show me, right? Can you show me that he allowed it, right? Can you show me that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I have to look up. Well, I think you're aware. You know when
If I'm asking
Inosuke.
you, I'm clearly not aware, dog.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Well,
Which one?
maybe you're probably okay. Can you present me with like a sequel of events of like what you're trying to tell me? Because I might remember. I'll
Yeah,
forget.
so essentially, Inosuke and Kano, after Shinobu died, Inosuke pulled up and basically, oh my god, bro.
This nigga said me, bro.
Anyways, wait, is that actually Dead Boy?
No, I was talking to Deborah about that last night.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god, bro.
Anyways, I was lucky. Okay, I'm not familiar. Anyways, so basically, after Shinobu died, and then Kano and Inosuke pulled up. I'm sure you at least remember, like they fought at least, and
Mm-hmm.
basically, Inosuke was able to like seemingly like blitz him. He was able to steal his sword back. He was like, "Oh, I didn't even realize you stole it back," and it was from a range of somewhere in between like 30 to like 50 feet across the
Yeah,
entire room they
so
were
I think this
fighting.
is like not
And
really
then
like
right after that,
yeah. So let me stop you
hmm?
right here because
What's
like
wrong?
if it's not gonna get to like where I'm trying to get it to, right, then I don't really see why it's important. So can you tell me because this doesn't really answer my original question. My original question was essentially right that oh well him basically like why would him basically blitzing right these other people mean that in that would be the same scenario for the Shinobu one because you're basically saying
Yeah, so
that
he.
Inosuke dude
Mhm,
blitz Doma, and I'm trying to tell you like why does that equivocate to the Shinobu one? Because just because one speed blitz him,
mhm.
that doesn't mean that he would be able to get speed blitz just because he lets him all the time. That's a composition fallacy. So it's fallacious.
Yeah, no, that's not the statement I'm making. Thankfully, it's not.
Okay.
Thankfully, I'm not committing a composition fallacy. What I'm saying is essentially he allows himself to get blitzed consistently by people that he's perception levels faster than. And I'm not making a statement saying like he did this specifically versus Shinobu. I think he did, but I'm not making that statement right now.
Okay.
What I'm
So
saying
then
is
yeah.
what we see from the Kano versus Inosuke fight shows that he allows himself to get blitzed by people he perception blitzes, not like 2 page or 3 pages
Yeah,
later.
that it's
So I
fine
don't
then.
think
So
it's
it
very
doesn't really matter,
convincing.
Doge. It doesn't really matter anymore because if
Yeah,
you're not
what doesn't
saying
matter?
that it doesn't tie to the Shinobu context, I don't care because that's why we're here. Because we were arguing whether or not there was a specific context regarding for the speed blitz, but you just said that the Inosuke speed blitz, all those don't tie
Mhm.
into the Shinobu one, so I don't really care. So
That's the
let's go into
context.
that.
That's the context for the
But you just
blitz.
said that
Like
doesn't
I don't think
equivocate to Shinobu.
I'm saying I never made the statement that he
Then
allowed
make it
himself to
because I
get
want to go
blitzed
into
by.
that.
What I'm saying, go out. What I'm saying is, showing a supposed speed blitz by Shinobu is very unconvincing because he later, right after this fight, he allows himself to get massively outsped by a person who perception blitzes from like 40 feet away.
Okay,
Not
so
a
at
few
this
pages
time, yeah,
later.
so then you are committing that. So I let it slide earlier because I thought you were gonna like present some reasoning, but you clearly didn't. So when I brought up the composition fallacy, you didn't really you just said you didn't commit it. But I'm telling you, right, that you're saying, oh well, this isn't really convincing given the fact that we see
Yo,
that
hold up,
he keep
hold up. My
yeah,
AirPods just died. I gotta put them in the
it's
case.
fine,
Give me a
it's fine,
second.
it's fine. Take your
Hold
time.
up. I gotta debate on my phone. Now I can't debate with AirPods. Okay.
So yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm like talking like I'm on the phone with someone, but sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Take your time then.
Held up to my ear and everything, but it's whatever. Continue.
Okay, so basically you're saying, oh well, it's not really convincing given the fact that we see that he allows people to speed blitz him just because like he's cocky or whatever, right? That's my
Yeah,
that might not be word for word, but you know a little notion of what I'm gathering so far.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying you're trying to equivocate those case scenarios to this case, and I'm saying that's explicitly a composition fallacy. For instance, I'll give because I'm not sure if you don't know what it is, but I'll just like give you a little example of it. For instance, oh well, if one car has a red tire, then all cars must have a red tire. So the context for this, and the reason is why it applies is because you're saying given the fact that we see that Doma allows him to get speed blitz many times, then that would mean that would lead to the conclusion that that he just did it for Shinobu. So that is by definition a
Oh yeah,
composition fallacy.
if it was a deductive argument, yeah, I agree. It's not a deductive argument though.
Wait, it is deductive because you're going off things that you have gathered so far and trying to get it to that conclusion.
Do you know what inductive versus deductive is, Bone?
Wait, I think I have those mixed. Go ahead and explain them.
A deductive argument is absolutely like necessary. So let's say like we see like one, we like stack another thing next to it. We can say 1 + 1 = 2. That's like deductively valid. Or we can say like
Well, that presupposes that that presupposes that it's necessarily valid.
or I'll just give you another example. You don't need to like pick at them too much, right? Let's just say we have let's say we look at a box or something and we have a option of whether there's an apple or a pear in it. We open up the box and we see there's an apple in it. So we can make the argument that because there is no pear or because there is an apple in it, therefore the pear is not in it or something along those lines. Just something that's necessarily true, that's deductively valid.
Right, so then I just don't think that you can make it yeah, so then I just would disagree with the inductive argument, given the fact that inductive arguments by your own logic would be fallacious. Because inductive arguments would fall
Wait,
under a composition fallacy.
Did you just say inductive arguments are
Your
fallacious?
inductive arguments, yeah. I subjected it to yours.
No, that's what I'm saying. An inductive argument doesn't make the case that it's necessarily correct.
Okay, so which
It's
one is
just
the
using
argument where
evidence.
you go off, well, if this is a case, then it would mean this is a case for this the case. Which one is that one?
What the compositional that fallacy you just described is deductive. Mine isn't deductive; it's inductive.
Wait, no, because
That means
okay,
it's
so you
possible. A
described it to
deductive
me.
argument.
You described it to me,
Yeah.
right?
So
And let me get this straight.
yeah,
Yours is inductive, right?
inductive. Yes.
Okay. The inductive is oh well. So if the pineapple or so if a pineapple is in a box or not, you said oh well. If we open it and we see that the apple is in it, that leads to the that leads to the conclusion that the pineapple isn't there because we don't see it there, right? But right, that literally fits the context, right? Because you're going off basically what you're gathering so far to lead this to the conclusion. So it does fall under it.
Well, yeah, you just described it like a base example of a deductive argument.
Exactly. And I'm saying that you're not going off what's necessarily true. You're going off what you gathered
Correct.
so that it leads to that conclusion.
Hmm.
So same for the
Yeah, that's
composition, right?
induction.
You're going off what you've gathered with the tires to lead to the conclusion. Correct?
Duh, that's how all arguments work. Yeah,
Okay. So then
of
it would
course.
apply in this case scenario via your line of reasoning that you provided for an inductive argument.
Not quite. So the fallacy you described is basically saying I see a case where a car is red. Therefore, all other cars must be red. That is a deductive argument where you're taking some sort of evidence and making a universal conclusion with it. I'm not. You can only apply that to my
Why is
argument
it
if I were to say,
universal?
because the conclusion of the argument, like I just said, all cars must be red. That's
You think
everything.
that
That's all
universal? You
cars.
think that oh my god. So you think that universal is like entailing that like it must be like all things?
That's just the way I'm using it right now.
Yeah, I don't agree with the way you're using it.
Well, that's what I mean when I say universal, just for some clarity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine then.
Yeah. So to fit into my argument, I would have to be saying Doma allowed himself to get blitzed when he was obviously not a blitz level slower, since he showed easily perception blitzing like 2 panels later. Therefore, necessarily the case, every single time Shinobu blitzes Doma, he was just allowing it. That's not what I'm
Okay, I
saying.
didn't
I'm
think.
saying
Yeah,
because he, yeah,
yeah.
it's induction, not deduction.
Okay, so I didn't have to. Oh my god, I didn't think I was gonna do this. But okay, so basically, why? Oh my god, Paige is gonna fucking laugh. Alright, but look. So why, right? Why would like you going off like these things or whether or not? Oh well, this guy speed blitzes him. He lets him. Therefore, that leads to the conclusion of this, and that falls under your inductive argument, right? Right. But there's still a possibility regarding for why it was an actual speed blitz. You're just going off what you've gathered too far to lead to that conclusion, which by definition is the
Mm-hmm.
inductive argument that you gathered. So if
Yeah.
there's still impossibility, I just think that I can provide my own interpretation and give the fact that you were in the positive, then you can fulfill your burden.
Not quite. So, for your
Why?
argument to work, you would have to claim that Shinobu scales to Doma and what you're
I
providing
don't
is
have to in this
basically saying
context.
that,
Because in this context,
what?
it's whether or not it was in this context is whether or not right he let her for the speed blitz. So it's not because you're in the
Yeah,
positive.
yeah. So I don't need to make a necessary or a deductively valid argument, right? I can make an inductively valid argument saying, yeah, the possibility still exists.
Same how I can enforce a
However,
possibility
the
to
evidence
equalize the
claims
interpretation.
you would have to make it an equal interpretation
Which I
for your
did.
scaling to work.
No,
And
because we're not. Hold up, one
you have
sec.
to make it more likely for your scaling to work, actually. I'm sorry. You'd have to make it more likely for your scaling to work. Because your scaling is Shinobu over Doma over Akaza.
Was
Did you
it-
get?
something.
I wasn't here, but
You hear that, Bone?
I heard that you would have to make
hear
it.
that?
More, I heard you had to make it more likely. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. For your scaling to work,
I said
your
I don't
scaling,
really.
correct me if
Okay,
I'm
so
wrong, is
Doge. Because we're on the point for the two interpretations that both of us are providing are regarding
Yeah.
whether or not it was a speed blitz, right? Is that what we're trying to interpret it as? Correct, we are, right? Right, Doge?
whether Shinobu actually like scales above Doma. Yeah.
No, because we're in the speed blitz factor. So yes or no? Do you agree?
That's
Okay.
part of the scaling.
So well, yeah,
Yeah.
but there's things like AP stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So yes. So it's whether or not the speed blitz factor. You brought up the point, right?
Yeah.
Don't get it, this new bitch, right? But you brought up the point, right, regarding how this is invalid, and then reasoning. So you're on the
Wait, what's
positive
invalid?
here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
Wait, what's
invalid. The
invalid?
speed blitz. The speed blitz is invalid via your inductive argument.
Well, via my
Correct?
inductive argument. So I'm not making a necessary claim. Let's be clear.
Okay, so you're saying
I'm
it is
saying the
you're
evidence
saying it is
leads me to believe
possible
this.
for this to be the case via your inductive argument.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It's possible.
but do you understand that you're in the positive here?
Not well.
I can
Yeah, I'm in
explain
the
to you why you're in the
positive, but
positive.
all for 1 second. Yes, I am in the positive,
Okay.
but the claim I made
Yeah,
is
I
that
understand
it's
what you're making. I understand
unconvincing
what you're
due
making.
to
So that
this.
is possible. So
Yeah.
now let me finish with my
Yeah, it's
explanation,
possible.
right?
I
So
agree. Yeah.
I don't have to, right, provide it
Mm-hmm.
being more likely because yours is that it's possible to what's
Mm-hmm.
predicated off a possibility, right? I am
Yeah.
enforcing another possibility. We cannot
Mm-hmm.
quantify whether or not this possibility is stronger than this possibilities because they're linear. So I did equalize the interpretations. That leads to the conclusion that you couldn't fulfill your burden.
So
It's
one
pretty
second. My
simplistic.
burden, actually, I never made a necessary claim. That's a little mistake you're making right there. I just want to correct that really quick.
I
When you
feel
say you
like
didn't
when I say
fulfill your
burden, you know how
burden,
you said universal? When I say burden, it's you basically, since we're in a debate and you're trying to prove, right, that it's basically not a speed blitz in order to
no,
win the point.
no, I'm
That's what
not.
I
I'm
mean
not
by
trying to
burden.
prove. No, no, I'm not. No, proof has to do with being like deductively valid. No,
Okay,
to
what I
prove
mean by
something, you must
prove,
like
okay, you know what I
deduct.
mean by prove, like, the win con. Like, you know
No,
what I'm trying to say.
yeah, yeah. To prove, I know 100% what you mean by prove. Prove, you mean like provide like proof.
Yes, something like
Those
that. It
are
doesn't
like
really matter. It doesn't really
synonymous.
matter. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to, yeah, as long as you can understand what I'm trying to communicate with you, it doesn't really matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah, and
I'm
I'm saying
just,
there's a
so
little
like when
bit
I
of a
say
mistake
burden, you
there.
know what I obviously mean by that. So we don't have to go into that,
Yeah,
right? So I don't know.
yeah,
Okay, so basically, right? So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter because that helps me. If you're not making a necessary claim, then you're just enforcing a possibility as you already agreed upon, right? So
yep.
if possible, if I'm also enforcing a possibility, then as you said earlier, right? Remember when you told me you would have to prove that one is more likely, that mine is more likely. I do not
Yeah.
because one, you're in the positive, you're enforcing a possibility. I'm also enforcing a possibility.
Yep.
If it's a possibility and
Mm-hmm.
possibilities are linear, then why must mine, right, be
Mm-hmm.
more likely? If it's just the whole point of me bringing this
So
possibility is
just
to
to
also prove that there's a possibility that this isn't the case
okay,
to divide your
slow down.
argument.
Okay. So two things. When I made the statement that you must prove yours is more likely, I was talking about for your scaling to work. You must prove Shinobu, or at least provide good evidence,
I don't have to.
meaning it's more likely, over 50%, Shinobu over Doma, Doma over Akaza.
Yeah,
So
so
I
I
just
don't agree to
said
those. I
you
don't agree
would
to those. I don't agree to that metric because you're bringing up the argument, right, that, well, this might not be the case, right?
hmm?
I'm saying
No, no, I'm not
that your
talking about this
logic
argument
is,
right now, Bone.
what did you say?
I'm not talking about my argument right now. I'm talking in
Yeah,
the
I know.
case
I'm
of
bringing
her
it up
scaling
because I'm bringing
specifically.
it up because it's relevant, and I'll explain why it's relevant. So I'm saying, right, that, right, you're saying that, oh, well, it's possible that this isn't a speed blitz via the things that I'm providing you, right, which are the Inosuke stuff, etc., right? I am telling you, right, that if your argument, right, is contingent upon a possibility that this is possibly the case via the things that I'm providing you,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to equalize it with a possibility because your argument is
Mm-hmm.
predicated off a possibility. So when I enforce a possibility, my intention is to equalize it to the point where your argument doesn't uphold because it's predicated off a possibility as well. So you're saying
Well,
this might be the case via this. I'm saying this also might not be the case because of this. So
yeah,
your argument is also equalized because there's a not the case via my possibility as
yeah,
well. So you cannot use
yeah.
that in
But
the exchange of information.
well, I think I perfectly well can because for your scaling to go through, you would have to get Shinobu over Doma. No.
Yeah, but the thing about that is that your possibility was enforced to prove the speed blitz. So when you
Wait, no.
say,
I'm just
so when you
like, don't you need to get Shinobu over Doma though? Don't you?
just in speed,
Yeah, yeah. Let's just specifically just let's talk about speed. You do need to get
I
Shinobu over
provided my argument
Doma,
and you try
right?
to debunk it with a possibility. In your argument, right, was a possibility, right? So I enforce another possibility to debunk your possibility. I mean, equalize it. Therefore, your possibility. Oh shit! I disconnected. One sec. Oh my god, bro. Hold up. I hope I didn't fucking. Yeah. Okay. One sec. Let me see if this works. Shit, I disconnected.
Okay.
I disconnected. Right, but
All right.
basically, I was in the
All
middle.
right.
Yeah. So I was saying that I'm basically trying
So
to contend it with
the
a
argument.
possibility
Oh, you
because
were
your argument
talking.
is.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. I disconnected. I disconnected. So I was saying that
Okay.
your argument is based off a possibility. Right. So let me start from scratch because I disconnected and I want you to hear me fully. Right. So I gave you my pieces of evidence regarding for why it's like a speed blitz. It says what's it called? Oh, it couldn't. What's it called? Dodge it or stop it,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And I said that
Yeah.
entails an impossibility. You said, well, this isn't really convincing, given the fact that we see
Yeah.
that Doma allows a lot of people like Inosuke to speed blitz him on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So your argument is based on a possibility to debunk my argument. So if your argument is based on a possibility, then all I did was simply enforce another possibility to equalize. What the hell is happening with my Wi-Fi, bro? Okay, I disconnected again. Oh my god, what the hell is happening with my Wi-Fi? But if your argument is based on a
Yeah.
possibility,
You no,
right?
I heard most of it, but I understand.
No, no, okay. So if your argument is based on a
Mm-hmm.
possibility to debunk my argument, then all I have to do is provide
Mm-hmm.
you a possibility as well to equalize the possibility that you're trying to use against my argument. So then if I end up equalizing the possibility that you're trying to enforce to debunk my argument and it's equalized, then my argument is left complete. It's literally left fulfilled because you're using the
So,
possibility to debunk it.
Bone. I think there's a little bit of mistake here going on. There isn't like three arguments at play. There isn't
Okay,
like three
so
variables at play right now.
so
Do you
what
think there
I
is?
yeah, okay, so I think there's the speed blitz that I presented, the evidence, right, for why Shinobi speed blitzed
Yeah,
him.
that's your argument. Yeah.
Then there's the I wouldn't say these two things that I'm going to present are more like arguments, but they are really important
Well, just
factors,
shorthand,
right?
like
So the
not strictly
possibilities and my
logical or like
possibility.
premises. Yeah,
So
but
I think
basically
those
the
are the
way
three
I'm
things.
looking at this is, yeah. So Bone, basically the way I'm looking at, there isn't like three variables at play. You presented your argument, just shorthand. Don't like think like premises. Just shorthand argument,
Mm-hmm.
common language argument that Shinobu speed blitz Doma. And I said, well, because of his personality traits that we see later, it's unconvincing. And then you said that's based off a possibility. There's also the possibility that those are real, so your argument gets canceled out. That would also leave your argument at a 50% chance
It wouldn't. Okay, so you're basically trying to
if
say,
we
right?
assume they're equal.
So I'll explain this. So you're basically trying to say, oh well, that also makes it to the point where you couldn't fulfill, your argument because it's equalized.
Essentially,
So
yeah.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that. So these two possibilities that both of us, right, are enforcing,
Yeah.
I think that
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of separate from the pieces of evidence that I presented, which I'll explain. And they're separated in a way, which I'll also explain, right? So in the way they're separated is, oh well, I present my evidence, and now you're trying to present
Mm-hmm.
this possibility to debunk my evidence, right? Now I
No,
give
not
I
quite.
now
Doma, not quite, or Doma, Bone, not quite. When you
Bro
say,
said Doma, not quite.
yeah, Doma, not quite. Yeah, his name's Doma. I think when you say debunk, I think you're getting this notion of like deduction. Like I'm trying to like
no, no,
prove
what I
it
mean by that, yeah,
false.
like I said, we both use these different languages, like whatever it is, right? What I mean by debunk is, like to prove a falsity at it.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is I see this personality trait that seems to suggest that your argument may not be correct. If you
Okay,
want to
cool.
say
Okay,
it may be correct,
we can
that's
say that
fine. I
your
grant it may be
argument. It
correct.
could be your argument, not the feat, whatever you want to call it, right? So
Yeah.
I'll proceed to explain it then. I present my evidence. You present your argument, right? I present this possibility, which is external to the scans
Mm-hmm.
I presented for the first one, and that's what I mean by it's separated in a way. That's what I meant by separated in a way. So
If
when
you
I
want to, yeah.
so when I
One
present
second.
this, no, I'll
Can I
explain
just
because
respond
we
to that
went
quick?
into something. We went into something. I want to finish that. So when I present this
Sure.
this
Go ahead.
possibility, right, to
Mm-hmm.
basically equalize the possibility that you presented, right,
Yep.
then the
Mm-hmm.
possibility, as I explained, is separated from the pieces of evidence, right, that I earlier brought
Mm-hmm.
up. So then that
Yeah.
means that your possibility is equalized with the possibility that I brought.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the argument that
Yeah.
I brought up prior is external to these two possibilities. So if these two possibilities are equalized, then it wouldn't affect my argument. Do you understand that?
Wait. Just to be clear, so you think arguments that have a 50% chance of being valid, you think that fulfilled your burden? When you just gave an equal interpretation, you think that fulfilled it?
I think okay, so I think I fulfilled my. I already explained this many times. I think that if I equalize the interpretation, which is basically going to be a defeater to my previous argument, right, and that would mean that I
Mm-hmm.
equalize your interpretation to the point where it doesn't uphold to debunk my argument prior. So I already
Well,
explained
sure.
this.
Yeah. Inductive. It doesn't
So,
debunk. It's inductive. I agree.
bro, we went over this. It's fine. It can be inductive, deductive, whatever you want to call it, bro.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I just say, when you keep saying it doesn't like debunk, it's like, yeah, I'm not providing like a contradiction or something. I'm just saying here's some good evidence to the contrary, and you said, well, it's possible that this evidence isn't sufficient, or it still is the
Dave, let me
case, and I
stop you right there.
agree. I
So when I say
grant you
that it's
that. There's no
possible
problem
for
with that.
this, when I say that it's possible for this, am I repeating
Mhm.
the speed blitz argument that I told you? Yes or no?
Are you repeating the speed blitz argument?
Yeah, just tell me.
No.
I'm not, right? So
Well, you're
when
not
I
representing the scans. You're just
no,
saying
no,
there's a
I'm not
possibility that these
representing the
scans are
argument either.
correct.
I'm not representing the argument either. No, because what I'm
Yeah,
presenting is a
you're just saying there's a
possibility
possibility my argument is correct.
eh,
Yeah.
for why your argument is incorrect.
Yeah, yeah. If you, it's vice versa. Like, there's a possibility my argument is correct. I'm saying there's a possibility it's not correct.
Yeah,
It's vice
exactly.
versa. It works either way. You want to
So
say
yeah,
it.
so when I bring up that possibility, right? It's
Yeah.
not in reference to like the thing. I'm not repeating the same argument that I brought up previously, which is a speedless factor. I'm bringing a possibility, right, in reference to the possibility
Mm-hmm.
that you brought up, right? So when I equalize
Yeah.
these two these two, when I equalize these two interpretations that we're both giving, right, these two interpretations, right, are whether or not like if one like for instance if yours were to like win, right, or be more
Mm-hmm.
more possible, more like than mine, whatever you want to
Like,
call it,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
then that would inherently mean that you would have, I'll say debunk, but I don't know what you mean by debunk, but I'll just say debunk, right? That would debunk my argument that I brought up, right? Because that was what you were basically using to basically prove that it was inconsistent in a type of way, right? So if I equalize that interpretation, that means you cannot use that inconsistency anymore as a type
Okay,
of
so just to be
justification
clear,
to prove a
yeah,
falsity to my
this seems a
argument.
little. If we just like, if I'll give you an example, maybe like it'll like clear up why this is like a little. I don't want to say absurd. That sounds disrespectful to you because you sound serious. But like, just like, let me lay this out. And maybe you could like make some sense of it, right?
Okay.
So let's say we have like a murder case or something, and we find some like blood stains or some DNA matching to this like random person. We say, okay, this is good evidence that he is the murderer. And some Joe down the street says, well, it's also possible that he's not the murderer. So that's like a equals out. So you can't use that evidence anymore. Do you think that doesn't make much sense, right?
Yeah, no,
Just
I
because
say
there's
that's
a
perfect. No, I
possibility of
say
the
that's
evidence
perfectly.
being
No,
false
I'd say that's
doesn't
perfectly.
mean
Wait,
that it's
wait,
not
wait,
evidence.
wait. You asked me a question, so I want to answer it. I'd say that's perfectly fine.
Okay, good. So we agree.
Okay, okay, cool. So then we can. I
Yeah.
guess.
So do you understand now?
No, I said that I said that it's fine if the guy right said that to
He's saying that
equalize the
that scenario
interpretation.
is fine with him.
Yeah. So
Oh, so you're saying that the dude is saying the evidence possibly
Yeah, he's saying
is
the
wrong,
contents of your scenario are correct.
so it's
yeah.
no longer evidence?
So the interpretations are equalized. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so let's say we
Because when you
have
brought up this analogy,
these
Doge,
blood
right? It's
stains.
literally the
Give me a
analogy. It's
second.
basically wait. When you brought up this analogy, you brought it as oh well, what we're doing right now. But you never told me right why this analogy proves that what we're doing is what I'm doing is basically incorrect. You just basically just presented an analogy of what's happening now. You never said oh well, given the fact that this is the analogy, this should be wrong for what you're doing. No, so I say okay, sure, because it's what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
it
So
wasn't an analogy to present a contradiction. It was more of an analogy to maybe put it in a different context so you could agree to it.
yeah,
Because when you say that you're fine with that, you're taking a radical view on what evidence is. Do you
a
know that?
radical
Like a
view. What do you
radical
mean by
view.
radical?
Like widely not accepted in anywhere. So let's say we have like blood
Wait,
stains
radical,
and
like
Joe.
not accepted by other people? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like
I
wildly
don't
like
care if
not
other people
accepted. It's a
bro, like
proprietary.
respectfully, I don't really care if other people don't accept, my ideal for that. I do. If that's what we're going off. You know what
I
I'm
just
saying?
wanted to be clear that like it is a proprietary definition that you're using. I just wanted to make sure you know that.
Definitions are my dependent.
Yeah, it just means that it's like wildly out of the norm. That's all that means. Of course, of course, they're mind dependent.
This dude bitches. Okay, yeah, this bitch is in a. So anyway, yeah, so it's fine.
So
I
let
think
me.
I think I think
So
we can move on, Doge.
what do
I
you
think we
think
can move
evidence
on.
is?
You want to move on?
Well, what do you think? Well, I'm just. This doesn't really convince me at all. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the point of this argument.
Doge, do you think I didn't? Do you think I didn't prove the speed blitz? Yes or no?
Do I think you prove the
No,
speedlets?
I said,
No,
do you
because
think
I think that
exactly?
evidence is
That's not my
convincing.
question. Was did you do you think that I did improve my speed blitz? So you said no. You said I don't that I didn't. So we can move on because I think I did. So we can leave it up to the judge. So we can move
Oh,
on.
Bone, just to be clear, like I said, I'm not really interested in like having a debate where we're like it's judgments how I won. I'm just interested in like discussing my views with you, like I said earlier. So if
Yeah,
you want to
yeah.
like get an
I
opinion on
asked
who
you. I
won,
asked
that's
you, was it going to
fine.
be like the Ouija one? That's obviously a debate, right? So I'm just saying, right,
Mhm.
that obviously I agreed, and I was you seen my debates because you obviously mentioned them earlier, right? You see, I'm not like
Yeah.
I'm being respectful to you, right? I'm being respectful. I'm not like, oh, shut up, bitch,
Mm.
shut up, shut up, shut up. Like I'm not being, I'm not doing that to you, right? I'm being respectful to
Oh
you.
no, I guess
So
the more meaning was I'm not really like I was
I'm gonna
more
go on death
interested
repair
in
though.
the do you know what like I don't want to say formal versus informal because this definitely is not a formal. What I mean by that is like judges and shit. I'm not really interested in all that. Like I'm just interested in like discussing our views and like discussing the disagreement. That's all. And like hopefully in a point of that, you're not going into it to try to win. You're going into it to try and convince the other person, right? Because like me right now, I'm just trying to convince you that like Shinobu is like the weakest posture. He just doesn't scale
okay,
easily,
well,
right?
it's that we reached the point, right? In that specific point, right? In that specific point, we reached to the
Mm-hmm.
point where like, oh well, it's like a disagree to agree. So I'm like, shouldn't we just leave it up to like a judge on that point, right? You know what I'm saying? And then since you're trying to say
Yeah, I
if it's
mean,
look, Doge,
one sec.
so
Yeah,
right, because I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish. So because
go
since you're
ahead.
trying to
Yep.
say right, since you're trying to say, oh well, that whether or not you convince or not convince, wouldn't it be
Mm-hmm.
right? Since we reached a point where it said it's a disagree to agree, I think I disagree, right? A disagree to disagree. I don't know how you call it, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
limits is trolling me, right? But look, if you call it to the point, right, where it's like you don't agree with me, and I don't agree with you, and the whole point of this is
Yeah.
to convince us, to convince, like your opponent on why your stance is
Yeah.
right, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at the point where we can't
Yeah.
convince each other on this specific point. I think that
Yeah.
if you think at it from this perspective, right, we move on from this point. We get the judge
Yeah.
that we both agree upon, and that judge
Well.
explains to you. Let me finish. That judge explains to you,
Mm-hmm.
right, why this was right, why this person A won this
Mm-hmm.
point, and by that own logic, he's basically convincing you on why he proved his stance. So by definition, we would
Oh,
still be aligning it with what you want to do. So I think it is perfectly
so
fine if we move on.
1 second, Bone. So not quite. I don't think like let's say we could have like a judge come in here and explain like let's say I think Doge like explain this better. I think he like said this that and he basically just repeats why I like argued it better. That's not going to convince you that your stance is wrong.
It
At
will.
the absolute
I'd
max,
say it
it's just going
is.
to
I'd say it
convince
is.
you.
Wait, I'd say it is because if
Well,
he's
okay,
getting
let's do the inverse. Let's do the inverse, right? Let's say a judge comes in here and says, "Yeah, Bone won because he said this and this and this," and like the way he argued his argument, he just argued it better than yours, right? So he wins the point or something. No matter how well that judge explains to it, the most that's going to come to is convincing me that you argued better. They would have to make
okay,
a new argument
okay, so let's
or
establish a
explain your
metric then.
argument
So what
differently.
if the judge says
What?
instead of argue better, he proved this, and by default he proved his stance instead of
Oh
convincing.
yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have a judge come in here and like make a better argument as to why like a possibility that doesn't count as evidence or something, like I'd be glad to do that if
Okay,
you
no,
want.
okay, so what I mean by that, so let's say we send a recording to a judge we both
The
agree
judge
upon.
has arrived,
Right.
coons.
Okay. So let's say we both send a judge to like a judge we both agree upon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we reached this point as
Sure.
I already went over. And then you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
say that, oh well, not quite because well, essentially this person can come in here and he can like say, oh well, he explained this better, this better, but that just convinces you that lost, not that he convinced you that he proved his stance, etc. So what if the judge,
Yeah.
right, that we agree upon
Mm-hmm.
tells me that Doge won, he won because of this, he proved this is the case
Mm-hmm.
because of this, and it's not just because
Yeah.
he's on him like convincing, none of that, because he proved his stance by default. Is that okay with you?
Mm. I mean, yeah, if you want to get a judge to say this is why you won or deductively won,
Same for
or something,
you. Same
that's
for
fine.
you. Same for you. Same for you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But if a judge like says he won the point because I think he argued better, that does nothing to convince me.
Okay, so we can. So let's agree on this metric then.
Just 1 second.
Wait,
1 second, Bo.
Burge,
If
go
you're
on mute.
interested,
Burge, go on mute.
I gotta
Anyway.
say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're interested,
paying attention.
what bridge? We have a
No, Burge, go on
wait,
mute.
wait,
Oh my
wait,
god!
wait,
Don't
wait.
interfere with my debates. Like literally. Anyway,
Anyway.
My verdict, you.
you're not
Anyway,
a judge.
1
You're not a
second.
judge. Like mute. Anyway,
I think
Doge.
Whataredoge won very low difficulty.
Yeah,
I'll explain
W.
later.
Anyway, so Doge, go ahead.
Get it, W. Get it. Like after we're done discussing this though.
Just conceded.
Anyway, go ahead, Doge.
So just to be clear, if you're interested in like getting a judgment to say you won, and you just like you want to like say you won, I will like concede to you right now, and you can go post everywhere that like I beat Doge. I scale above. Like, Bone, like if you care about like winning a debate or something, like I don't care. Like I will just give you the W so you can say you beat me. I just care about changing your opinion. I don't care about debating for sport.
Okay, right, but like I told you earlier, right? We went to the point where like we can't convince any of each other. So
the way I see that, we wouldn't continue on to say like, oh, we can get a judgment, because I don't think a judge, unless they're going to make a better or new argument, is going to convince me personally of anything.
Okay, but I'm telling you on a hypothetical if they do.
Okay, you can get a person to try and explain why either me or you won.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so then do you want to move on from the let's go into the other part, because I think that if Shinobu just has like a greater speed, she would just be Blitz Akaza.
Yeah, I just don't think she scales anywhere to Doma. It's by default, Doma would scale.
Okay, so I'll just so then I'll just say, right, that if I were to win this point, my argument would just basically lead to the conclusion that he just speed blitzes Akaza. Because Doma's faster than Akaza, as we established previously. Shinobu's faster than Doma, therefore, speed blitz Akaza. So,
if you're correct, then yeah.
Okay, so then what would it be? What would be your shit? Oh shit, my game just downloaded. Okay, so what would be your win con?
Ew. It's like a panty piss or something?
Yeah, so like if you're correct, you would win. And if I'm correct, then Shinobu doesn't really scale anywhere except like the spider demon in the forest.
Are you gonna bring up any win cons for Akaza?
Not nasty, say, boy.
Yeah, she just has no scaling near Akaza.
Oh, okay. So then we can just end it here then. Oh, okay. Are they gonna present like more
that's
stuff?
literally all there is to say. But like, I'm surprised you don't think a possibility like is evidence.
Nah, I do. But
it's not absolute.
Wait, you
evidence,
do?
But it is inductive evidence.
No, like I told you I wasn't gonna rat on you, so I'm gonna use my actual beliefs, right? So, yeah.
Wait, now it's suddenly become way less clear. If you do believe that possibilities, even if there's an equal opposite possibility, it's still evidence.
He's just ratting. He's an ape.
This is Rich. Oh my god, Rich.
I don't understand why you would contend the idea.
Because he's a bitch. Because he's a bitch.
Bridge. I mean, it's either he just doesn't. No shade to you. Let me preface this. No shade to you, Bone. But it's either what Bridge said, or you don't.
It is what I said.